Welcome to Fashion Your Seatbelt, your first-class seat to one-on-one conversations with the fashion industry's top voices. I'm Jessica Michaud, and I created this podcast to share the joy I have in getting to know all the amazing people who bring this creative, inventive, and extraordinary business to life. You'll get to hear the cadence of their voices, the sound of their laughter, and feel firsthand how passionate they are about what they do. Also, I just want to remind you to leave a review. Stars are really trending right now, and it helps other very stylish listeners like yourself find the show. Now buckle up, and let's get started. From the moment Alexandra Van Houtte first told me about her newly launched platform in 2016, describing it as Google for fashion, I knew she was onto something big. Since then, Tagwalk, the website she founded and is the CEO of, has grown by leaps and bounds and has become a linchpin platform for anyone working in the fashion industry. It is the first runway image keyword search engine in existence. In a nutshell, the former stylist assistant created a site that, in just a few simple clicks, makes it possible for stylists to whittle down their sartorial selections for fashion shoots or mood boards from the thousands of catwalk images, lookbooks, and street style shots that are taken every season. It is also the perfect tool for fashion journalists and editors who are obliged to cull together images for those never-ending top trend texts, as the platform allows users to search for images by keyword, color, season, brand, and more. Tagwalk also offers a variety of features that make it easy to save, share, and organize images. In addition to its popularity with fashion professionals, Tagwalk's democratic nature has made it a widespread tool for your average fashionista, as it allows visitors to the site the chance to explore the latest trends, discover new designers, and find inspiration for their very own personal style, and create seasonal wish lists of key pieces that they want to invest in. My conversation with Alexandra really gets into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to get a startup off the ground, how to best bring on investors, and what skill sets a successful leader needs. As always, Alexandra is honest and open with her answers, not pulling any punches when it comes to the hard questions about revenue streams, scaling her business, and even her hiring practices. I came away from our in-depth chat feeling inspired, energized, and ready to take on the world. Alexandra, it's so great to see you. I'm so excited to talk to you about Tagwalk.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time since we last spoke, so.
I know, I think when we last had a real conversation, other than when we were driving from one show to another, was about when you were launching Tagwalk. And I want to get into that, but I actually want to go all the way back to the beginning, to the origin stories of your love of fashion and kind of how that love of fashion, sparked the idea of Tagwalk.
Yeah, I think fashion was always a way for me to dream a little bit, but also the fact it was renewed constantly just made things a bit less boring in everyday life. And also, I just kind of thought that a way of expressing yourself could really be made through fashion. So whether, I don't know, you didn't feel confident, and the minute you would put a good dress on, you would kind of feel good about yourself. The minute you try and lose weight, you can fit in those those jeans you always wanted to fit in. So there's a relation to fashion, which is way more important than what, the material side of it. I think it's actually quite deep into a lot of people's brains and habits. And I've always really been attracted to fashion since as long as I can remember. Just didn't know it would be this way, but yeah, it's been forever something I've been really interested about and deeply grateful that I can be part of this industry.
And so that's always something that people ask me, like, how did you break into the industry? Because Tagwalk was not your first, foothold or toe into fashion. You had a bit of a parcours, as they say in French, beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I interned a lot when it was kind of legal-ish or kind of illegal-ish. Age 15, I met someone on the Eurostar at the Financial Times and interned with them during my kind of winter break. Then I managed to intern 2 weeks at Elle. So suddenly I was getting all these internships really, really, really young, and really not through people I knew. It was mostly through people I'd meet really randomly, whether it's on the train, on the beach, in a restaurant, and babysitting. And I really think that kind of got me in the industry pretty quickly. I was then really convinced I wanted to assist as a stylist. That was my dream job. I just saw, all these magazines and super glossy magazines and all of these stylists that kind of had that really high life that you kind of really aspire to when you're 15, like Karin Rothfeld being a great example. And so I kind of really pushed for that. Yeah, and so I kind of really aspired to be a fashion assistant and work in the magazine and pull in all the looks. And I obviously managed to be a fashion assistant for a pretty long time. But
Where
I was,
fashion
I
assistant,
was,
where did you do that? I mean, again, that's the dream of so many people. That's the dream of becoming a fashion assistant. How did you finagle that?
I think I emailed about 350 different people. I mean, literally 350 different people. I did an internship at Numero, which I think that really helped me to kind of, be okay with the fact I could, assist anyone. But then I emailed a lot of people and I met a lot of them replied to me. It could be Anne-Sophie Thomas who replied to me, who's at Marie Claire, and Donatella Musco, who then became the fashion director of Grazia. Patty Wilson, thanks to Numero, who then took me on Vogue Italy. So it was really through kind of, I think, a lot of guts of emailing a lot of different people and being really pushy, but also I was really convinced that I would manage it and that would be my job. And once I was in that job, I was really deceived by everything, really, by the process of being an assistant. So looking at a lot of looks and just calling them in the whole time, and just really, I don't know, it's something I think I aspire to way more. And the reality of the industry is that maybe in the year like 90s and early 2000, editors had a really strong position. But I felt that when I kind of went in, it wasn't so much the case. You just had to always put the brands that were paying the most advertising forward. And you had to fight for a look that you wanted because your magazine wasn't as good as the other one wanting the same one. So I don't know, I just felt a bit contrived in this whole situation, and obviously incredibly not well paid. Which is a factor because, I think you're also gratified by the money you get at some, especially when you're an assistant, and that really wasn't the case. And I speak Chinese fluently, so my parents were a bit like, wait, like, you're a smart kid, like, why are you going through a lot of stress for something which isn't really gratifying you also personally? And that was until 2015.
So I know that because we've spoken before about the impetus of Tag Walk, that time as a stylist was so frustrating. And I had the same thing when I was doing like trend wrap-ups for the New York Times and the International Herald Tribune, where you would have to go to all the shows and kind of remember, as you were pulling things like 6 months later, what you would need to pull, what were the key looks. And that was, you just had to have that kind of like, treasure chest brain that could kind of store all of that information, and to have that was such a key factor.
I mean, I think I wasted so much time, and I think the key word is waste. I was wasting nights and nights and nights and days and weekends of just putting out looks from style.com, what used to be style.com. And I just kind of thought it's so illogical. Like, you have so many search engines to simplify your life, but in fashion, nothing exists. And if I'm looking for a red dress, I have to go through every single show, bearing in mind at the time there were maybe 500 shows 4 times a year with pre-fall and resort and accessories, etc. And it was just so long. And I think being very impatient as I am, and I still really am, it's getting a bit better, but it's not great yet. I really wanted something that could make the process of working easier. So that was just the original idea. I didn't really know how I was going to make money, how it was going to evolve, how it was actually going to work. But I just knew that for me, I needed something quicker. And I got fired age 25 because my boss got fired. Like in fashion, there's changes, there's cycles, etc. And I was kind of, on my sofa, my parents being like, you have to find a job, you're only 25, you have to find a long-term job, a city, like they say in French.
Yeah.
And I had this idea, and I said, listen, I had this idea, I just kind of want to do it. They're like, well, who is it for? And I was like, well, I think 900 people will use it. They were like, 900 people, Alex, like, you're really not going to make much money with 900 people using it. And actually, I think the strength of creating something when you're young is that you're really not scared. because you've got nothing to lose. I have no kids, and I still have no kids, but no responsibility, no kids. You start an idea with very little vision. So you kind of have the big vision, but you don't really know how much money it's going to cost you. So you kind of start with 500 euros here and 300 euros there. So everything's very organic, and I think it's very unscary. And you can really do that when you're young, because unless you're a great entrepreneur and that's your trait as a person. But I just feel that the strength was that I had nothing to lose. So I kind of just did it. And I put my flat on Airbnb, so it was rented, and that was great. And I went to my grandmother's house, and you kind of just make things happen super easily.
And it's been such exponential growth in that time in so many different ways, in the reach of the name, the recognition of the name, your staff. I think you have 22 people on your staff now.
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
And also in terms of the context of what you have on the platform, it's not just tagging the shows, but it's much more than that. But maybe for those who aren't familiar with the site, can you kind of give that elevator pitch that maybe you gave back in the day, of what it does, and or maybe what that evolution has been to today?
Yeah, Tagwork's super simple. It's free. You go on the website, and if you're looking for accessories or clothes or whatever within the fashion industry that have just come out from the designers, you just type a keyword. So it could be red long dress, it could be feather skirt, it could be 1960s, 1990s, and every single look will come up by alphabetical order. So brands never pay to be better referenced. We don't take any advertising, and you don't pay to access the website. You just have to sign up. And it just means that basically what would have taken you maybe a week of research, if you had to do it really thoroughly, will probably take you, 5 minutes. So it's really cut your work down by so much that you can actually work so much more and just think of so many brands you'd never really think of. And we take every single brand from the Paris, London, Milan Fashion Weeks, every single accessory. We tag every single model, every single creative team, every single young designer, every single couture show. So it's basically
that's amazing.
Everything in fashion.
That you have the creative team too, because yes, the other stuff, but that you're actually IDing all the creatives, including the models on down, is fantastic.
Yeah, models is a really big thing on Tagwork actually now. A lot of people search for them, but we have the models that walk the most, the new faces, the casting directors, the agencies, the hair and makeup. We've got literally every single thing on Tagwork. So it's really easy access information.
Yeah, and the website flows really, really easy. It's very organic, it's very user-friendly, but you did mention it's free. So from a business standpoint, for an investor standpoint, how are you paying these 22, people who work for you? Like, where is your revenue stream in relationship to the platform? I know that I see that you have like weekly quizzes, and I know that you have data about the fashion weeks, and on your Instagram, you post like this, feathers are up 127% or whatever, in the fall winter season. What's your business model, for example?
So, we will always probably remain free. It's something which I really thought about from the start, because essentially the people who are using it at the start are assistants like I used to be, and they're the less well-paid people in the industry. So it was really important for me to have this free information going. It was also really important for me to have no advertising, because at the end of the day, with advertising, it's always the same people with the same, big money that come in and have a lot of priorities on other younger designers. And that's something which didn't feel so right. And then I really didn't want brands to pay to be better referenced, not only on the homepage, but also in terms of searching. So the business models in 4 really clear different revenues. They all work within each other, so it flows really well. The one is referencing. So brands that don't have a fashion show can pay to be referenced at the same level as any other brand. So it's not all the brands, it's going to be brands which are, it could be Roger Vivier, for example. It could be Pierre Hardy, for example. It could be a younger brand like Alighieri and By Far, who really started on Tagwork 5 years ago, who suddenly, because 95% of the people search by keyword, and suddenly someone's looking for a black boot, instead of going for the black Prada boot, they might be like, oh, I didn't think of that Roger Vivier one. So they click on the image and the PR contact comes next to it. So it's really simple. That's the first revenue stream, which is the same for everyone, the same price for everyone. There's no, you can't pay more or less. It's just the same I just like things being very equal. So
Yeah,
it's a very equal way. Okay, the second point is data.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of information about a lot of things within Tagworks. It could be, a really big denim brand asking us for data on denim and how it's working in the industry. It could be a really big mass market brand that could ask us, to search certain keywords. It could be tailored jackets, it could be pastels, it could be mini dress, mini skirt, to see how they're performing, see which brands are doing them the best, the least, etc. It could be a big luxury brand that's asking for brand equity. So we then benchmark different brands with different people, and they answer different questions. So we do a lot of brand equity. It could be, recently we launched generic reports.
Mm-hmm.
So studies, so they come out once a month. Last month was on models and diversity and how diversity is really treated within the industry. This month is sustainability, secondhand and vintage, and how that's working. I think the month after that is on accessories. So basically, these are just really big, amazing studies on generic reports on how things are working within the industry. So that's working really well. So that's the second kind of chunk. The third one is creative strategy, digital creative strategy. So we do it for a lot of brands, whether it's they're launching a concept on a bag and they need to know which influencers should have it, which art direction it should take, how it should be posted, what vibe should it be. It could be them organizing a weekend abroad and saying, okay, like for this weekend, what's our target? How should we play it? And that goes from really big luxury brands, which are confidential, but really, really, really big luxury brands that have their team already, but need just a different point of view on something.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a more mass market brands that need to understand how. So that works really, really well. And then that's third, and the fourth one is really tech.
Mm-hmm.
So we've developed on the white brand. So it's powered by Tagwalk, but it's not Tagwalk. Our search engine for people. So for brands, so it could be devices PRM is Tagwalk and powered by Tagwalk. So there's a password, you go on their PRM, you put denim jacket, all the denim jackets done come up. You can then request directly the pieces. But then it's also, for brands that are doing it for their archives internally, they need a search engine for all their archives. So you type pink dress, and then every pink they would have done since the 1960s or 50s will come up. So, that's something which is really, really powerful nowadays in terms of our business revenue.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. I mean, I have to circle back around and ask you, what, as somebody, you started out on your grandmother's couch, working from there, and to be running, a company with 22 people, so many different, access of information and performance and working with brands, et cetera, et cetera. It can be one thing to have a great idea and to try and launch it and have it be bespoke and small. It's another thing to have, what skill set do you need to have as a leader? Because it's different than it's your own baby and you're doing everything yourself. And then there's this whole HR running things kind of a thing. I mean, what kind of personality do you have to be able to do all of that?
I think it starts with a very clear vision of where you want to go. Because if you know that what you're building and creating is something good, when people will doubt you and employees will doubt you, you'll always have that stronger mindset. So I think mindset is crucial. Because when you start a company, it's really difficult, and when you employ people, it's difficult, and sometimes you tend to forget why you created it. So I think the mindset is crucial. I think honesty and transparency is crucial within the company. There's very little my company and employees don't know about where we're going. If numbers aren't good, we tell them. If numbers are good, we tell them. If we sign a client, we tell them. So there's something a bit more open-minded, I think, and flowy within the relationships. And also something really important is more the political side of my company. But I really, really wanted to move very far away from a fashion model, which was a bit clanny and sometimes a bit bitchy and very competitive. So everyone has a very specific role, and each roles work very well within each other. So there's never time at Tagwalk to kind of bitch or chit chat, or we don't have that. And I think that's a really, really important factor and matter of my company, and it's something I really insist on. I think things flow quickly and easy because because no one's on each other's platforms, basically.
Mm-hmm.
No one's above anyone else. Yeah, juniors might be, but there's never people competing for the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because everyone's competing together towards one same goal, it makes things so much easier to look after.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, but I think mentality and your mental strength is and it's hard to get it perfect, but now mine's approximately good. But it takes time. But I think without that strength, I don't think you could go really anywhere.
Yeah,
It's impossible.
believing in that, your gut and that's one of the things that so many designers struggle with, is that idea you get so many different people giving you suggestions, and to like stick to your guns in relationship to that. And I think your policy of, transversal, structure is really smart as well, because you're right, it can be quite catty in the fashion industry. I know as you were growing, one of the things that you needed at some point, because you can only do so much with that pocket change and what the coins you found in your couch cushions, that you were looking for an investors. But what I love about this story is that you only wanted one investor. You were determined to have one.
Yeah.
And I want to hear this story because I think it's really indicative of who you are, and it kind of can give other people who might want to do startups kind of like maybe steps or the drive it takes to kind of follow that vision.
Yeah, so I really needed one investor, but I really wanted one in particular, and that she's called Carmen Busquets. And Carmen is a phenomenal woman, who is very instinctive. So she really deals with her instincts always. So I think before she even met me, before she even saw my kind of business plan, which was really not so much of a business plan 5 years ago, she really meets the people, and Carmen's behind that supports her success. Business of Fashion, List, Farfetch, Byron-esque. I mean, so many different amazing ventures. And I really, really wanted Carmen. I just felt that her way of being and approaching people was exactly how I was. Because another point I didn't say beforehand is that I think my strongest strength in this company is that I have a really good instinct.
Mm.
I have a really good gut feeling about a lot of the things. And if I don't have it, I go away alone for 10 days without my phone, and I get it back and I centralize. And Carmen is someone, because she's deaf, she really feels emotions and people. She's not someone who will, she's not the typical businesswoman. She's someone who really relies on her instincts. And I really wanted Carmen, and I was put in contact with her by 15, 20 different people. And I really, really went for it. And I met her, and it was really a match. It was a match because I think when your vision is very clear for an investor, if your attitude is a good one and your vision is a clear one, it makes things very easy for them. And I don't know, I think things were very easy in my head. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is what I want to do in the end game. And this is how I want to grow it. And this is how much money I've spent. And so Carmen is someone who's really been, within Tagwalk for the last 5 years, straight from the start. But you have to find your match. Carmen's a match for me because she's always there when we need her. She's someone who's incredibly reliable, but she's not someone who every week's going to be, harassing me about things. Mm-hmm. And that's our way of finding our really good balance. But she's someone who, in the end, if I really need Carmen right now for something, her and her team, Thomas, who, they're very, very close, and Scott, they will always be there. So I think it's my right shoe, but for anyone else, it might not be Carmen's way of working that could work for them. And I think the mistake with a lot of young people is they see Carmen with everything she's done and they think, okay, I need her, but you need to understand if it's right for you, because the name won't suffice. It might not be the right way of working for what you want to do. So I think it's always important to kind of, I always say that when people say they can't raise money, I always strongly believe, and maybe I'm biased, that if you have the right idea and the right attitude, the right things will happen. Yeah. I'm not a big believer of, luck not happening and not going your way if everything's aligned for it to work.
Mm-hmm. I want to return to two things you mentioned in your last answer. And one of those was that you take time away, that you go and take 10 days if you need to kind of recenter yourself, ground yourself. And I think that's an interesting point to make for young entrepreneurs, is this idea of work-life balance. I think I'm seeing that in I mean, I've seen your work ethic, so I know maybe the work-life balance isn't 100% yet, but that you take that time. And I'm seeing that there seems to be in Gen Zs and millennials, this idea of really wanting to find that work-life balance. Is that intentional for you? Do you really try and make that, important to you, that you have that, you step away?
Well, it really wasn't like that when I started Tag Walk. I think it was, I breathed, lived, slept Tag Walk, and I really became in such a bad place. I put on a lot of weight, but not because it was just unhealthy weight. It wasn't because I was enjoying myself and having fun. And then I was kind of really self-conscious. I was really tired. I was really aggravated by everything. I was kind of really angry at everything. And I I knew that if I didn't change the way I was, I think Tag Walk wasn't going to obviously last as long as I wanted it to last. I was employing the wrong people. I wasn't explaining things properly, and everything was kind of going wrong. And I really took that time to go. I went to India during the summer break for 3 weeks with no Wi-Fi, no phone, in the middle of nowhere. And I think the first 10 days I just slept, and I couldn't even talk. I was so exhausted. I couldn't even bring myself to do anything or to read. And then I suddenly started recessing slowly but surely. And then I really took the time to start exercising pretty much every single day. It's not even about physical appearances. It's just that I need that energy to go somewhere, and that bad energy sometimes to just go somewhere. And now I really take once or twice a year, I go for 10 days to this clinic, which is an expensive clinic, but it's a really good one called Bushinger. And it's somewhere where you don't eat. So you do a real big fasting, but you're surrounded by doctors and by a really good environment. And fasting isn't to lose weight, because if you eat 800 calories a day, you lose as much weight as fasting. Mm-hmm. It really resets your brain. And I think Tag Walk is way healthier. Now I'm healthier in a sense. Mm-hmm. I think if you're not healthy as a CEO and entrepreneur, it's difficult for the team to follow you properly. And my work balance is I still work incredibly hard, but I work very well in the morning until 5 p.m. After 5 p.m. there is no one. I'm not here. But then I work from 9 to 11 p.m. So it's just my way of kind of balancing.
So you said 5 p.m. and then you broke up. So you work until 5 p.m. and then there's no one, and then what?
I start again at 9 until 11. Mm-hmm. So that, because in my head, I like going to sleep knowing that my emails are done, my work is done. And then I wake up in the morning at, 7, I do my emails from 7:30 to 8:30, 8:45. So I walk to the office and my head is clear. Mm. So my work ethic is pretty strong because I like being on top of things. Mm-hmm. But, when I know that at 5 p.m. I'm not good, I never take calls at 5 p.m. Never. Like, it's very rare for me to accept one, because I know I'm not going to be good.
So what's happening between 5 and 9? Is this, because this leads to my next question, because one of the things you mentioned earlier was with Carmen is that you had 20 different people reach out to her on your behalf. And what I've noticed about you is that you're an incredible networker. You remember everyone's name, where they've come from, what they're doing. You're keeping tabs on everyone. So is the 5 to 9 slot the networking time? Maybe tell me a little bit about, because that is such a key thing within any business, is that ability to network. It's something that I tell anybody who comes up to me asking for advice. It's like network. But what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, between 5 and 9, it's definitely not networking at all. It's more like, going home and reading a book and just being a bit alone and having a bit of time off, and going on social media and seeing what's going on, thinking about ideas. But it's really not. I really don't go out between Mondays and Thursdays, and on Fridays I go away from Paris, so there's only one day to network, is on Thursday. But I think about networking, it is crucial. It's really crucial, and it's crucial for kids, even the younger ones, to be really, we have an intern right now who isn't there today, and because she thought she could do télétravail. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, when you're an intern, I don't think it's right, to just think it's okay to be, you should be working 5 times as harder as anyone else in the company, because that's how you get noticed. And you should be there earlier and leave later, and really show your commitment. And I think also because physically, I've always been on the bigger size than the smaller size. I felt that I had to overdo everything to make sure that I would still be, which is really stupid because I don't think like that nowadays. But I always thought that that deficit in terms of physical appearance, which should be fitting fashion, um, I should do 10 times more. So be funnier and kinder and louder and whatever, more cultured and all of it to kind of, create,
Counterbalance the
this
fact that you
gap.
don't look like a fashion person.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really helped me because for sure, I think it means I'm an extrovert. I'm someone who you could put me anywhere and I'm really happy and I'm really curious and I speak to loads of people. And, whether I'm with, the cleaner or the CEO of a huge company, I will probably have the same amount of things to say. And I think, Bebe Jean from Numero always told me everyone's very important. Like no one is more important than someone else. And respect is really important. And I think, network is crucial. Network is crucial, but also you create your own network. And yes, sometimes you're helped by people, but I think you're helped when you give yourself the means to be helped.
I agree.
Um,
Absolutely. But I am curious, because of all of the advancements we're seeing and all of the changes and everybody being so much more comfortable with Zoom conversations like this one, AR, VR, the metaverse, all of those good things. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it because, you're in the thick of it.
The pandemic to me was great, I have to say, because I had the best of both worlds. I was at home, so I had my downtime and I could really recenter. And I used to travel so much and I used to never be in the office and kind of never be with my team. And suddenly I had this kind of pause where I could wake up early, I could exercise for an hour, still be on time for my 9 a.m. Zoom, and I could eat really healthily and I could not be tempted by things I didn't want. And I could go to bed early. And so in that sense, I felt really lucky, because what I like the most is quiet time and I just love being alone. And suddenly this happened. So that was really good, but also parallelly, because Tag Walk's all about digital. So suddenly I had this amazing team and the traffic was really going up and the demand for data was going up and the demand for creative content was going up and the demand for showrooms was going up and tag rooms as we call them. And we all had time to work harder, but also be a bit healthy on our way of being. So the pandemic, I'm one of the lucky ones, I really have to say, because a lot of people had a really bad time and it was really difficult and they're not selling any clothes and they have to close their companies and the restaurants are terrible. And, and I know that for 99% of the people, it's been really tough. But for me, it was amazing. And I met my boyfriend during the pandemic. So, suddenly everything kind of fell at the right time. And, yeah, I've been really grateful in a sense because I think we concentrated on better things for Tag Walk, and I think my team was really grateful and happy to work for a company that was still working.
Yeah.
They
No,
weren't scared
yeah.
they were going to lose their jobs, and the government did help us a lot. I didn't do any chômage partiel, unfortunately, because it was difficult to do, but the government, you knew you had that option if you had a problem, and I think that kind of really stressed me out a bit less than it would have otherwise. So yeah, the pandemic has been good, I think.
Are you going to change any kind of habits? Are you going to do more of that from home kind of stuff? I know you mentioned the intern earlier, but I mean, or are you or do you find that having that community and that group think where everybody's in the office together, do you find that that's important?
You cannot grow a company if you're on teletravail the whole time. Like, it makes it impossible. Even if I don't speak to all of them every single day, just knowing they're there just means that if ever you have any kind of question, you can just go to the next room. And I'm really not up at all for that teletravail thing. I'm really against it. I just think it's unpractical. I don't enjoy it. If it has to be once a week, why not? If I have to kind of do that, but it's not going to change our way of working for sure.
Then looking towards the future, what are your thoughts about, all of this artificial reality, metaverse, AI, you're using your Oculus, masks or visor or whatever. Are you thinking on any of those kind of terms for your company at all?
No, I think human is still very important to interact with humans and have the human eye for fashion. I think technology without human beings could never be anything in fashion. You really need both. Obviously AI is a really big part of tag walk and it's really important for tag walk, but I still feel that clothes are designed by humans and by people that have feelings, and that by people that have inspirations, and that by people that want to give something, society, in a society kind of wise, they want to impact something. So I think there's nothing better than being in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Oculus and VRs, and that they are cool experiences, but not as cool as just going somewhere and having that first reaction, and seeing clothes and touching them and discovering them. So I think tech is a very big word in fashion, but I believe that human and tech have to find the right balance.
I mean, I think that's the epitome of tag walk, because one of the things that I loved from the beginning when we first talked about your idea, because at that point I think it had just been launched like a week ago before we talked or something
Yeah.
like that the first
Yeah.
time, was that every single tag was picked by the human eye, so that you could get this kind of depth of tagging. It's not just feather, it's ostrich feather. I'm exaggerating here, but
Yeah.
the descriptives, maybe if it was in relationship to an era or something like that, that you could only really do that if you had the human eye going over and doing this labor intensive tagging.
I mean, it's super important because obviously AI will tag a color, a style, a material, but to make, for themes, it's complicated. And themes are important because themes are what a designer will try and do within his collection. So it could be grunge, romantic, virginal, 1990s, dominatrix, whatever it is they're trying to tell the world are really important keywords. And those keywords, even if your AI is great, it would be a lie to say that AI can find all the themes on its own, because it's not because you put leather pants and a white tank top, it's obviously 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
It could actually be something really different. So it doesn't really work like that tech wise. But yeah, I think human side is vital. And it will always be. I just never would want tag work to be 100% automatized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think the results will be as good.
You mentioned earlier when you were starting out and you're 24/7 tag walk, and you were eating it and breathing it and drinking it, etc. And at some point you were making some bad choices, maybe some bad hires. I want to ask you, because this is something that I ask a lot of different people that interview. Talk to me a little bit about maybe a mistake that you made or a misstep that you learned from, and how you pivoted or grew from that as a leader or as a company. And then I'm going to ask you my 5 generic fashion questions, and then we're out.
I've made a lot of mistakes. So I think one on its own might be complicated, but I think when you're vulnerable, you hire the wrong people. And basically what that means is that if you're missing a competence, which, I'm missing lots of competences, data might be one of them. You kind of feel that the person in front of you is way stronger than you and way smarter than you. And therefore, when you're young, 26 at that time, you kind of hire the wrong people because you think, oh, they're so much better than me, I just need to take them, without really thinking, what do you want as an entrepreneur and as a CEO and founder? And, once you have one bad apple in the team, it messes up the whole team. I think that pressure you have of wanting the best of the best means that you kind of forget what you actually need within your company. And another big mistake I did is that when I launched Tagwalk, I asked so many questions to so many people, everyone's advice, because I was kind of scared. And actually, the truth is that you get so lost with people telling you what to do, that I think is initially you know what to do, and you always know the answer. And that's the truth. Like, I never believe that your intuition doesn't know what you should do. I think you always know what you should do. And then I think you should surround yourself by 2, 3, 4 key people. And I have my key people, and they're always the same people within your company or outside or whatever, who always give you advice. And then the rest, you just do not talk about what you're doing. Like, no one knows what we're working on at Tag Walk. And I don't want people to know what we're doing. I want to do it. And if it works well, everyone will know about it. And if it doesn't work well, only the 4 people who knew what I had as an intention will know that I messed up. But I think that double pressure of like telling everyone and then messing up is so much stronger. I think, keep your things close to you and just never really, just do things quietly. I think you have to do things quietly. Like, entrepreneurs that want press the whole time for the wrong reasons, I just don't see a good ending happening there. I just think the more discreet you are, and less you brag and the less you talk, the more you get things done and the more you can prove what you've done. But, don't talk before you do things, because either people will expect too much and then always be disappointed, or you won't end up doing it and then you feel stupid and then you feel bad, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, those are some very, very good answers. I think that's going to be really helpful to other entrepreneurs. All right, 5 generic fashion questions. First one, what is your favorite piece of clothing that you own?
I think the dresses like clothing.
Yeah, what is your most cherished possession? You could be clothing or an accessory. Like, what is the thing that you like? If you had to run out of a building, what would be that one thing that you would be like, oh, I gotta take this with me?
I think a Missoni dress I have, which was the first nice dress I bought myself.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. Buying luxury items, buying designer pieces, it's an investment. It costs a lot of money. For most people, don't have that kind of money. But if you were to tell the general public, if there was one kind of item of clothing that you should really save up and invest in, what would that be for you?
I think it's not one. I think to make a good look, you need a pair of Converse. I think you need a good pair of jeans. It could be Levi's or Gap or whatever. I think you need a really good blazer. Save up and buy yourself a 300 euro blazer. You won't regret it. I think you'll keep it a long time. And I think you need one nice bag. And if you have those, you can kind of mix and match them, and you can put your nice bag with a dress. You can put your Converse with a dress. You can put the blazer with a skirt. But I think, and a bag, I would really go for a classic. It depends, I think the Gucci Jackie is a really great one. I think the Chanel simple one is an expensive one, but you can find a vintage one and try and save up. I just think if you have one of each of those and you save up for them and you buy good quality, I think you end up keeping them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. And about the Jackie as well. It's a great classic. Who is your favorite designer, living or dead?
Yeah, Albert Elbaz, for sure. He dressed women so well. He really dressed women for them to be strong women, and not for them to be sexy women for men. And my first internship was with him, so I really learned a lot from him. And for sure, Albert Elbaz.
Yeah, he was what got me into fashion too, so I'm right there with you. Okay, this is a perfect question for you. What trend will you never follow?
What trend will I never follow? Probably the mini trends, because my bags are not going for mini right now. No, I think it's, the mini trend is a great trend, but it's a great trend when you're tall and skinny. It's a trend I will never follow. Mm-hmm. I love Uggs and Birkenstocks, so,
Me too. I'm a big fan of those. Ugly footwear, I'll go all the way. Comfortable, ugly footwear. And then the last question is, what do you love most about fashion?
I think it's that if you're good at something and really good, and if you persevere, I think there's an opportunity for everyone, regardless of where you come from. So despite it being non-inclusive, I think it's way more inclusive than we think it is.
Alexandra, you are the best. This has been such a delight. I learned so much. We need to have a real sit down in a cafe and catch up even more, because it's been too long. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Don't want to miss an episode of Fashion Your Seatbelt? No problem. Just go to iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts and click on the subscribe button. Then every new episode will drop into your feed automatically. No fuss, no muss. Believe me, I know. I'm Jessica Michaud.